when you're watching Captain America Brave New World. Now, I think that this movie is it's pretty good at a lot of things, but it's also missing a bunch of things. You know, I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, "Oh man, this was absolutely like a 0 out of 10." But at the same time, I feel like there are so many things that were missed in this movie that I was kind of like, hmm. Or I guess rather, there were a bunch of different directions the story could have gone in that I was kind of like, oh, that would have been a little bit more interesting. You know what I mean? But after watching it the second time, now, I think that a couple of the characters were misused. You know what I mean? Like the use of Mr. Blue, right? Who comes back from the Incredible Hulk, and you could call this movie like an Incredible Hulk, like one and a half. You know what I mean? Like they're bringing back plot elements from the Incredible Hulk movie that have been like kind of hanging back. You know what I mean? Like I think that Thunderbolt Ross and Betty Ross and that whole thing was kind of like swept under the rug. You know what I mean? It was kind of pushed to the back end for, you know, more of this creating a cinematic universe instead of actually like a Hulk like trilogy or story. You know what I mean? So it was kind of all over the place. I think that Harrison Ford did a pretty good job with Thunderbolt Ross, all things considered. I don't, and particularly feel like he messed up the character or like. I think that he did what he did with the character. Like, I don't feel like he did anything great with it. I don't think he did anything bad with it. He just did the character, the role he was supposed to do, and that was the end of it. You know what I mean? And I feel like the biggest part about this movie with Harrison Ford was the Red Hulk, him coming into it. And, you know, that's obviously like the big selling point of the movie was that the Red Hulk was going to be in it and he was going to transform into the Red Hulk and all this stuff. And I understand that. And it's probably and it is the coolest thing about this movie is when he transforms into the Red Hulk and they fight. But I was mainly focusing on the whole like Mr. Blue, smart guy, trying to like destroy Thunderbolt Ross's reputation and whatnot. I don't know. I really liked the Isaiah Bradley and the Adamantium storyline and stuff like that. I felt like that was so much more interesting than just like watching this really smart guy try to tear down Thunderbolt Ross and the Red Hulk. You know what I mean? This kind of like mind controlling, brainwashing genius who's really smart and can plan for every single little like, you know, he can plan for everything. He had time to plan everything. And now it just kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels like it didn't end up working out. But anyways, I think that Sam Wilson as Captain America, the first Captain America movie without Chris Evans, and I thought he did a good job. I don't think it was like the best Captain America movie, but at the same time I was like, he's doing the best he can with what he has, you know what I mean? I really liked the fight choreography he does. I liked the way he utilizes his suit, the wings, the shield, Red Wing, like all of the tools at his disposal. I feel like he does a great job of using it. His wingman, the other Falcon, Adrian Torres, I thought was really cool. I thought it was nice to see that they had like a second one, like another Falcon. I thought that was cool to see, and it was really nice to have like that extra side help, I guess, or I don't know. It just worked. It worked for me. I thought that they did a pretty good job with with that guy's character. Although at times it was a bit kind of like, oh, he's the young guy and Sam Wilson's like the old guy, and I was kind of like, It didn't really work for me, but whatever. Anyways, the Isaiah Bradley storyline is really interesting to me. I feel like after the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Isaiah Bradley was first, he was first introduced, I felt like it was a really cool setup for the character and a way to kind of understand who the character is and how he feels about, the government, the system, and all of the things that they did, you know what I mean? How they oppressed him and kept him down, you know what I mean? Imprisoning him for 30 years is crazy, And so now actually being like reminded of his patriotism and his heroism and what he sacrificed for this country. I think all of that was really interesting, and I'm glad that they brought him back in for this, and it was really cool to see that they utilized his super soldier background to like be super strong and to fight and to shoot at Thunderbolt Ross, the new president, like how he was weaponized as to like assassinate the president. I thought that was a really cool storyline. And I think, all right, now this might be a little crazy here, okay? I think that if the story, all right, for the story, because I feel like the way that the movie goes, right? Like Sam Wilson finally like, oh yeah, you're innocent, Isaiah. I got you free. You know what I mean? He's like, you're a free man now, Isaiah. I like it. You know what I mean? I thought that was a really cool moment and a good like, everything's okay in the world now. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's reality. I don't think that's reality. And because it's not reality, I thought that they should have taken a darker route, should have gone the darker way, and just show how Isaiah Bradley has been so institutionalized, so defeated by the system that he feels like he has no choice but to go against the system. So there's a point in the movie where Isaiah Bradley is running away from the White House, and he's old, but he has the super soldier serum in him. So he's running away, and Sam Wilson's giving chase, and the Secret Service are after him, and there's this moment where Sam is like, hold on, stand down, don't shoot him. And then he's telling him like, come on, Isaiah, don't do this. Give me some time to figure this out. And Isaiah's like, I'm not going back to prison. He's like, I'm not going back to jail, Sam. He doesn't understand what's going on. He was brainwashed through it, but he was like, what's going on? What's happening? And he's like, don't do this, Isaiah. And Isaiah's like, I can't go back to jail, Sam. And Sam is like, don't do this. Don't do this. And I think if they were really dangerous, they should have, oh, damn. Isaiah should have gotten shot and killed right there. Not like actually have us see it, but just have the gunshot shoot him, or like him try to resist arrest and then have them shoot him, and then he goes down and Sam is like heartbroken and defeated. And that would have been just like, oh, damn. Like, that would have been like some heavy consequences, you know what I mean? After all of his service, all of his patriotism, he dies as an attempted assassin on the president, right? Like, and everybody just kind of knows his story as that, like, he was mistreated by the government. He had his opportunity to kill the president and he took it. Like, they just slander him, as opposed to like, I guess the kind of Disney Channel ending where it's like, oh, you're free, Isaiah, and everything's all good again. You know what I mean? It doesn't work, I mean, obviously the way I'm going is a lot darker, but like, it's the way I think that in reality it would turn out to be. It would turn out to be that like, hey, after all of the suffering he's been through, all of the darkness, it's like, it's hard to break out of that system. It's hard to, when something like this happens with mind control, it's like, how do you escape from that? You know what I mean? How do how do you break free from those binds? You know what I mean? And so I think if they had killed him, it definitely would have given Sam a reason to like clear his name. You know what I mean? Let people know him for being a true patriot, not a assassin. You know what I mean? And it would have given him a lot more personal hatred towards Mr. Blue. There's a reason why he's like, I'm going after him and I'm gonna stop him and I'm gonna arrest him or all this other stuff. You know what I mean? Have him stand in trial or like go to prison for his crimes and whatnot, you know? But, you know, obviously they kept Isaiah alive. He went back to jail, you know what I mean? And then they try to clear his name. It's really hard having like a villain like Mr. Blue, who's so smart, get defeated, because it's like, you're super smart. Like, you could have accounted for this or you could have accounted for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the problem with having really smart characters, is that they're only as smart as you're allowing them to be in the plot, right? Like, I feel like a big part of what this movie fails on or fails to do is that, like, how is Sam Wilson really challenged in this movie? How is he as Captain America challenged in his values, right? Like, it seems pretty crystal clear that what he's doing is right and what everybody else is doing is wrong, right? Like, it doesn't feel like in The Winter Soldier when Captain America was like, he was going against S.H.I.E.L.D., right? But everybody was saying like he was doing something wrong or there was something like hidden on there, as opposed to like the actual good that comes from it uncovering a cover-up, I guess. Or maybe I guess that's a different way to look at it, huh? Because Captain America kind of just like stays good throughout all of the movies. Like, you kind of root for his side. I don't know. It's a bit weird. But my point is that like Captain America is challenged by the system. He's challenged by people like Nick Fury. He's challenged by people like S.H.I.E.L.D., like Hydra, by choosing to do what's right. He's challenged by Tony Stark and the government about signing the Sokovia Accords and whatnot. He's challenged by the U.S. military to serve his country in a different way. How is Sam Wilson like challenged in this movie? It's less of a challenge and more of like a mystery. He has to unfold and figure out what's going wrong. You know what I mean? It's not like he himself is being like pushed against. You know what I mean? Like, we know what he's doing is right. But I guess in the other Captain America movies, we see him do like the right thing. But I don't know. I just feel like if he was more personally challenged, I guess, if that makes sense. But maybe he was with Isaiah Bradley. There could have been no, it was more of like a cover-up. But anyways, my point is that like with somebody like Mr. Blue, right? Somebody so smart, he should have to like test Sam Wilson's like morality and his goodness, you know what I mean? As opposed to, you know, not doing that. As opposed to getting everybody else to like, forcing Thunderbolt Ross to, you know, transform or ruin his public reputation and whatnot. I don't know, man. It's why I feel like it was kind of all over the place, but it was actually like, I think it was pretty interesting to see how everything kind of unravels, or I do think it's a cool use of like time. But because Mr. Blue was like kept imprisoned for so long since like the first Incredible Hulk movie, it adds like a certain layer of like, well, where was he before? Oh, he was being locked up by Thunderbolt Ross, and he was told that once he was president, he was gonna do this or do that. You know what I mean? I think that a big portion of this movie was focused on it was all Mr. Blue just trying to like destroy or defeat Thunderbolt Ross, trying to get him like trying to turn him into the monster, into showing people his true colors, as opposed to, I don't know, what's the right word? As opposed to being like a spy cover-up story, it's more of like I mean, when it comes to Mr. Blue, I feel like there were so many moments where things could have gone perfectly right for him. I don't understand how a character that smart is like leaving himself so wide open to get caught. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't want to be caught, you know? But anyways, what I did like was his like use of different people. Like, he used the Serpent Society and Sidewinder to do like his dirty work or his easy work. You know what I mean? Like, he himself can't fight or really do any of that complicated stuff. But having Sidewinder do it, now there's the secret, there's the ploy, there's the real force of hand. You know what I mean? That stuff I do like, is how he was able to mind control Isaiah Bradley. He was able to mind control the Air Force and the pilots and stuff like that, so he could start a war and have that be under Thunderbolt Ross's, have that under his belt and destroy his reputation as a leader, as a president, and all this other stuff. I feel like all of that is really, I think that is the interesting part of it. But when he fails, or when things don't go his way, when he gets caught, when he gets defeated, it feels like, how did you get caught? Did you not plan for this? Did you? I don't know. There were plenty of moments in the movie where I was just like, if he's so smart, everything should be just going his way. Like, there's no room for failure for him, you know? There shouldn't be anyways. But I do kind of like the Sidewinder and Sam Wilson kind of like fight that they have, where he drop kicks Giancarlo Esposito onto like a windshield. I thought that was crazy. I was like, damn. I was like, Giancarlo's like, he's in his 50s or whatever, like maybe 60s, and he's getting drop kicked. You know what I mean? I was like, that's crazy. But anyways, the action and the choreography and the fight scenes in this movie were really good. There were so many things in this movie that I liked, the action being a main piece. But one of the things I did not like is one of the characters that they introduced in the movie. And I guess, I don't know. It could have been one of the problems with like the script, or like the film being made or whatever. Because this movie went through a lot of reshoots, rewrites. They did so much to like correct this movie, to do it, I guess, justice, or to like change a couple of things that they originally had in there but weren't going to play well because of the politics. So there is a woman in the movie who was a former Black Widow, and listen, I'm all for women's empowerment, you know what I mean? I'm all for like the Black Widows. I feel like that's a really cool thing. I feel like they did a good job explaining it, or showing us like, hey, these are the Black Widows, and they're women, and they're super skilled, and they're strong, and they're capable. They're really hard to defeat. I get that. But this woman, she's like half of Sam Wilson. You know what I mean? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, she was standing next to Harrison Ford's chair, and she was like at the neck of the chair. I mean, like the chair was at her neck. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't care how skilled you are. She was also like really skinny. Like, I can't believe that she was able to take down like anybody. And she gets like her own little moment. You know what I mean? They were like, don't worry, guys, I'll handle this. And she starts fighting like these military people at Echo Force One or whatever, the military base where Mr. Blue was. She's fighting these bad guys. And I'm like, I don't believe for a second she's able to like kick anybody on the floor or to lift somebody up or to like slam them on the ground. Like, not even for a minute do I believe it. And so I was just kind of like, this makes no sense. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe that's kind of like, oh, well, you're not on board with the like, with that kind of like thing. You know what I mean? You don't believe that women could be just as strong as men. It's like, no, it just, you could have gotten somebody else. I don't know. Maybe that is my bad. But like, I just found it extremely difficult to believe that this small woman was able to like do all of this. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, it makes sense for Sam Wilson to like fight a guy who's 6'4" and to come out on top. You know what I mean? I feel like he has a chance. But this lady, she was up against guys with like AK-47s and like military gear. They're like 20 pounds of muscle. I mean, they're bulky. And she's like tossing them to the ground, slamming them. I couldn't. It took me out of it for a second. I was like, there's no way this lady is doing all of this. And yet I'm supposed to believe it because they're like, oh, she's a former Black Widow. I was like, I don't care. I don't care if she was a regular Black Widow right now. You know what I mean? She's getting her ass beat. You know what I mean? But obviously that's not what they were going for in the movie and blah, 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 blah. So long story short, I felt like she was like a huge waste to the movie. I don't feel like she really added anything. You could have replaced her with literally anybody else on like a Secret Service or CIA force and they would have fulfilled the job just as well, you know. What else is there? All right, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the Red Hulk. So before that, let's get to the Japan and United States feud or the deal that they're trying to work on. So throughout the movie, Thunderbolt Ross is trying to work on a deal to get the adamantium from that celestial being that was coming out of the earth from the first Eternals movie. Well, the only Eternals movie, my bad. So from the Eternals movie, that celestial that popped out of the earth is actually containing adamantium in it. And it's stronger than vibranium. It has resources to help medical advancements, weapon technology, stuff like that, you know? And so they're trying to work on a deal to like share adamantium between both nations. And so Mr. Blue is trying to like force them to get into a conflict with Japan because he was the one who hired the Serpent Society or Sidewinder, Giancarlo Esposito. He hired his character to steal the adamantium, which was taken from Japan, and then they blame it on the US. And then that's how they get into a war, into a conflict, and then they both show up in the Indian Ocean or wherever the Celestial is, and then they both have to like fight over it, and they both get into like a Navy battle of sorts, an Air Force fight or whatever. And then Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres have to stop the war. So there was a pretty cool moment where, you know, Sam Wilson and Joaquin are stopping missiles from being launched and stopping pilots from shooting each other that are mind controlled by Mr. Blue and stuff. I thought that was a really cool conflict. I felt like that was a really cool like fight and action choreography that they did. I like the use of the wings. I thought that was really cool. All of that was really interesting. I liked it. And then after all of that, Mr. Blue tries to get Thunderbolt Ross to transform into the Red Hulk, but it just doesn't end up working. And then for his final plan, he's like, I'm going to go to prison, but I am going to reveal his true colors to the world. And then Thunderbolt Ross turns into the Red Hulk. And when you see a Hulk transform in front of you, the first thing that's on your mind isn't to like make a quippy remark. It's to just get out of there and run, because he's going to go crazy. But this little reporter is like, when did they turn red? And she's just standing there watching it. Like, run, lady, run. Like, I'm pretty sure there were other people running, and she's just standing there like, when did they turn red? And I was like, lady, do you not see what's happening? Run for your life. You know what I mean? But she had to get the quippy remark. Anyways, he transforms, and Sam Wilson's like, I gotta stop this. I gotta stop him. So he flies over to him, and they start fighting. And he starts like destroying the White House and like destroying drones and like helicopters. Pretty crazy stuff. And then Sam is like, all right, come after me, guy. And then I thought it was really cool watching him like rampage and jump over, like, he like jumps miles. He like jumps into the air and he's able to catch up to Sam, who's like flying, you know? I thought that was crazy. And so they have a little bit of a fight, you know what I mean? They travel over to the cherry blossoms and he starts beating him and the wings. And I was like, why isn't Sam using the vibranium wings to like push back all of the force that he's pushing onto him? Like, he waits until the last second to do that. You know what I mean? But anyways, he starts fighting the Red Hulk, and now he's like, damn it, I knew I should have taken that super soldier serum. You know what I mean? And now he's like trying to fight off or like to defeat the Red Hulk, or at least get him to like calm down. And that's basically their plan. His plan isn't like, he's not going to be able to beat the Red Hulk. His plan is just like, maybe let's talk him down. Maybe let's try to get him to de-transform, you know what I mean? Go back to normal. And so he's like, do you see what's around you? Do you remember Betty and the cherry blossoms? Come on. And then he's like, ah! And so they keep on fighting some more. And I gotta say, Sam held his own as best as he could, you know what I mean? I think he did a pretty good job holding his own against the Red Hulk. Was it perfect? No, definitely not. But I do think that, all things considered, just being a regular guy with some wings and the Captain America shield and whatnot, I think he did pretty good on his own. You know what I mean? I liked how he used the wings. I like how he used his shield. I like how he used the terrain and he flew around and stuff. And the Red Hulk was pretty menacing. It reminded me of the old Hulk days before Mark Ruffalo, like, you know, before they started using Hulk sparingly, I guess, or, you know, stopped him from being like this total monster anymore and just started just terrorizing the world, you know? But anyways, eventually Thunderbolt Ross calms down and he's like, he turns back into Harrison Ford, and then he gets locked up, he gets impeached as president, he goes to the raft or whatever, or he's in prison for whatever, and, you know, he gets to see his daughter Betty, who comes back, you know, and then, yeah, that's kind of it. Isaiah Bradley is, you know, he's freed from his crimes. He didn't do it. Mr. Blue is caught. And all's well that ends well, you know? End of story. Great work. I thought that, there we go. Easy peasy. And then I think Sam is talking to Joaquin, who got hurt while they were trying to stop Japan and the U.S. from like fighting each other. And then Sam is talking about starting his own Avengers, you know, rebuilding the group by himself, now with the help of the president. So, cool stuff. And then finally, I think that's where the movie ends. Also, surprise cameo from Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, as Bucky Barnes. He's talking about being a governor, and I was like, what? He wants to be in U.S. politics. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's... When I first watched the movie, I was like, he wants to be a governor, or like he wants to be a senator or whatever. I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I was like, there's no way they would ever allow him to be any form of government. You know what I mean? But whatever. And then the end credits scene showed Mr. Blue being like, how are you going to handle all of them? How are you going to fight the other worlds? Huh? I've seen it in many probabilities. I've calculated. How are you going to handle the other universes? And stuff like that. And I think that's, pretty cool setup. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do this moving forward. I don't know how they're going to bring all the other worlds together. But hey, it is what it is. I get it. They're doing this multiversal universe war thing. So we're going to have to see how it goes. But until then, overall, this movie is, for some people, it's a hit and a home run. It has some cool moments that people really like. And for other people, it's a swing and a miss. And, I don't know, man. This movie's good. It's not great. It's borderline okay. It's just on the cusp of being okay, but it's good. I think this movie's pretty good. The only part that I mostly rewatch or care about is when Red Hulk transforms and stuff. I feel like everything else is just kind of a build up to that, and then once you already see that build up, it's kind of I don't really much care about Sidewinder. I don't care about the Isaiah Bradley stuff. I don't care about all of the other things that came before. I just want to see Captain America versus Red Hulk, so. And that part is great. That part is great. But that does not make a whole movie, So with that, this movie's good, not great. Borderline, just barely past okay. All right? So, anyways. I think that it definitely defines, Sam Wilson's capabilities. I like that he's able to, shine on his own now. He's finally getting opportunity to do things by himself. So who knows how he's going to lead the Avengers or create an Avengers team or work with people. It's going to be interesting. But we'll have to wait and see. Until then, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.